Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So a lot of people wanted to know how does a rhizome tend to look like. Now remember guys, the rhizomes will usually be inside the soil so much. This part is going to be inside the soil. Now I have taken it out to show you guys in the video. This is how the rhizome tends to look like, and you can see this is where the new leaf is going to start to come out. It is going to come out with a stem. The stem is going to come out first and then there is going to be a leaf. So ideally this entire portion is going to be inside the soil, but I wanted to show you how the rhizome tends to look like. Now this is another type of plant from the family of Marantaceae. So I'll put the name on the screen. It is a variegated plant. Again guys, you have to be extremely careful. Not a very beginner friendly plant, especially for people who are from a very dry environment. As you can see, the tips can easily get burnt. Do not keep them in direct sunlight. They have to be in indirect bright light, but they cannot tolerate low light because they have a lot of variegation. The moment you're going to put the plant in a low light or with very less light, the variegation will start to reduce. So there has to be a good amount of indirect bright light. Now this goes for every plant that is variegated. Never keep the plant in a very low lit area, otherwise the variegation is not going to be present. The reason why we buy a variegated plant is to have that variegation on them. So if you're going to keep it in a place where there is not much light, all the variegation will be reverted and the plant will start to look more green in color. Again, variegation is not a stable thing in plants. It tends to change. So it's not that you're going to have variegation on all the plants. Some plants might have a lot of variegation. Some leaves might have complete variegation, completely white, but those leaves are not very healthy. Because whenever there is variegation on the leaf, that part does not create the photosynthesis, that does not have chlorophyll, so it cannot help in the process of photosynthesis. The ones that are green is the one that has chlorophyll and they help in the process of photosynthesis. So if your plant has a lot of variegation, then definitely that is going to slow the growth of your plant. That's why the variegated plants are very expensive, because they tend to grow very slow because of the amount of variegation on them. Plant from the family of Marantaceae, the soil has to remain the same. I'll put it on the screen. I tend to use the same type of soil mix. It is coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. Coco peat is going to retain the moisture. The garden soil is going to give the natural nutrients and retain a little bit of moisture. The perlite is going to make the soil airy, and the sand is going to help make the soil well draining, because we need to have a well draining soil for all of our Calatheas. Watering is when you tend to see that the upper layer of soil is dry, around 1 to 2 inches. Go ahead and water it. Do not add fertilizers during the winter season, because a lot of plants during the winter season, especially the foliage plants, they tend to go dormant, which means they tend to rest. So please do not use fertilizers. Even the watering should be reduced a little bit, because ideally during winters the soil takes a lot of time to dry. We do not want to have soggy wet soil, because the plant roots will get damaged. They will get rotted if the soil tends to stay soggy wet. So every pot should have a drain hole, so the excess water tends to flow out of the pot. Now as I said, again the same thing with this pot as well. Sorry, I dropped some water. Again the same thing over here. You can see there is 1/4 of water in the cup, and I have placed the pot above it so that it gives a little bit of humidity for the pot. Now if you're going to expose this plant to direct sunlight, it's going to get burnt like this. As you can see, it was completely burnt because there was a little bit of sun that was falling on this leaf and it completely got burnt. So ensure that you're keeping it in indirect bright light. You can place it at indoor, but ensure that it's not very close to the air conditioning vent or the heater, because otherwise the leaves will get damaged. So place it in a place where there is a good amount of indirect bright light. Do not keep it in a very low light condition. Pest attack, it's usually with spider mites or white flies, so always check the undertone of the leaves, because you'll start noticing that there is some damage on the upper leaves. These bugs tend to attack on the undertone of the leaves, so always check. Do a routine check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. So if you tend to see that, you can always go for any organic solution in order to get rid of the bugs, but it's always better to do a check on your plants regularly, especially if you're growing it indoor or if you're growing it outdoor. The pests can attack both indoor and outdoor, so it's always better to do a routine check. Propagation is very simple. As I said, you can see this rhizome. Once the plant tends to grow a little bit more, the rhizome will have some roots. You can separate it, or you can do a root division once, because these plants tend to grow very bushy. They have a lot of shoots, so you can take out the plant and then separate them, and you can do a root division. With that, you can multiply and propagate this plant. Now this belongs to the family of Marantaceae. It is not toxic to humans and pets, so this plant can be easily kept around the garden. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.